Nigeria's independence is basically the most important milestone in the nation's history. If you will recall, Nigeria just celebrated her Diamond Jubilee from Great Britain. Hence, the need to look at the topic, Nigeria at 60, the way forward. Hello and welcome. I am Olujoke Mosaku on Let's Talk. Joining me is Barrister Joshua Femi Korede, attorney at Joshua Olufemi Korede Esquire, New York. Stay with us. Thank you so much for coming. It's wonderful having you again.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much. It's always a pleasure.
All right. So, where is Nigeria at the moment?
That's a heavy question. I'm not even sure there's anyone on the planet that can summarize where Nigeria is. But what we can talk about, I think, is what do we know? What can we see? What are the things that we are experiencing? I say we, to include those of us who are on ground in Nigeria, who are living the everyday experience, and those who are in the diaspora, who are abroad, who at some point, were in the middle of it, and now maybe we are watching it from afar in many ways. And I always defer to people who are on ground when it comes to information about what's going on, because to be there is to know what's going on. And so, in terms of where Nigeria is, you can see, at least online, that we're in a point where people are agitating for several things, but at the core of it, there's an agitation for what seems to be, I don't want to call it secession, but people want a break from whatever Nigeria is right now. It's a sad reality, but I think that's where we can come to. People want a break from it. Now, when I say break, I'm using the word break in terms of not just those who want to break away, as a group of people, but a break from just a change, something different, like an end to whatever it is that people are suffering now in terms of chaos, corruption, things just not working right. There seems to be a lack or an absence of vision for the country to chase. So I think that's probably one of the most critical things in my perspective is the absence of a national vision. So Nigeria is at a place right now where we seem to be walking blind.
Okay, we all know that it's often said that Nigeria is the giant of Africa. Now, do you think there is something worth celebrating? Looking at from your age group right now, you don't belong to the very, very beginning, like, would I say the old Nigerians? Yeah, like the 21st century Nigeria. So, would you say there is anything worth celebrating?
It's again another tough question. I'd say yes, because Nigeria as an entity is still with us. Sometimes you celebrate just the fact that you are alive, right? And in fact, birthdays are really just an acknowledgement of that fact. Like it's another rotation of 365 days, and oh, look at me, I'm still standing. So Nigeria is still standing, and I do think that's worth celebrating, because the truth is there are many other things that could have happened to the nation at this point. We could be here having a conversation about a country that used to be Nigeria, if it hadn't survived. So I think you celebrate that. I'm someone who believes in finding the good in situations because it gives you hope. It's what allows you to continue to push forward, is your ability to discover, well, there's hope. If there's hope and there's life, then we're going to keep pushing, because we just might make it to that future we're looking for. So I think it's worth celebrating that we're here, we're standing, in spite of all the agitations, chaos, and all that. Nigerians as a people are living, in the middle of all our chaos and everything. For instance, if you look at our impact in the world of entertainment internationally, for a country going through what we're going through, this also is a season where Nigeria, as you know, as the leader, and Africa in general is seeing a big acceptance on the world stage, not just acceptance, celebration in arts, you know, entertainment, music. We just had one of the Sons of the Soil win a very powerful match recently, Adesanya. And so you have those moments, those bright spots that continue to remind the world that, hey, look, we're going through something right now, but what we are able to accomplish, our potential is still there. Our people are still doing great things all over the world. And, we, as long as we're here, we can get where we need to go. We can do better.
Okay, so how far has Nigeria gone with democracy and the rule of law?
You're just testing me today, okay?
Oh,
Yeah. Look, and these are legitimate questions. It's just that the magnitude of those questions, it's just huge because there are many layers to it, right? So, democracy, what is it? What does it mean? You know, I have a concept that democracy, like many other political or governing theories, derives its essence from its context. What do I mean? You will define democracy based on the nation or the body or the country in which it is being practiced or not practiced. So democracy requires context. All right. So the theoretical definitions of democracy and the anecdotes about what democracy means, you know, self-government, you know, rule by popular vote, all those things, those concepts, they're all things that you have to put into the context of where they are being used. For instance, America is seen as an example of the modern day version of a democracy. But everyone who's in the system in America has come to realize, especially in the last few elections, that what we have is a representative democracy, in which case the popular vote does not translate into who becomes the president. So we still say we're practicing democracy, but a democracy has been designed, and the features of that democracy have been set up in a way where it's not a direct democracy. Which, I'll be honest with you, until I came to America and really got into the system, I didn't really pay attention to the distinction between a direct and indirect democracy. I didn't know there was such a thing. So democracy will derive from its context, like any other governing principle. So in Nigeria, when you talk about democracy in Nigeria, is democracy in Nigeria existent? You know, even in the Nigerian context, in our own ideal of what a democracy should be. Nigeria on paper should be a democracy in waiting, right? A democracy on its way. And the context would be within a federalized system. So just on the theory of it, you look at whether or not we are even properly practicing federalism. And that's our first problem. Because your democracy needs a context, it needs a container for which it will exist. So the container, the bowl, pardon me for using food-related examples. The ceramic bowl within which your pounded yam must be placed will affect the way the pounded yam sits in the bowl. So in other words, if you force pounded yam into a small bowl, you might end up pushing it up at the edges. Sorry, that's just a funny guy coming out. But so Nigeria's democracy is supposed to settle inside something. So our federal system, with all the complications of our tribes, our religions, makes it so that the context for democracy is not settled. So we cannot have a democracy because there's no way for the democracy to sit.
Okay, prior to October 1, President Muhammadu Buhari unveiled the Nigeria as 60 logo to commemorate the anniversary. I'm sure you saw that too.
Yes.
Of course, there were views, reviews, applause, and criticism. What's your stance on this matter, not leaving out the theme together?
Part of my problem, like as I was describing earlier, is that our emphasis on symbolism, our emphasis on the show and not the work is a big problem for me. I'll be honest with you. I could care less about the logo. You know, I could care less about colors. I could care less about symbols. Because the thing that makes a logo, a color, a flag, an anthem, the thing that makes those things, that gives those things value is the system under which, system from which they emerge. So in a nation where the people are suffering, there's no plan for the future, educational system is all the way down, the economy is just abysmal. The logo is useless. It's like coming up with a new design for the Nigerian currency. If that design does not change the value of the currency from, let's say, 319 naira to a dollar, it's rubbish. The symbolism and the imagery for me is wrong-headed. I feel like the attention and the pressure and the push should always be about the work. When the work is solid, you get to a point where no matter what the symbol you put on, people will associate the success of the work with the symbol. That's where the symbol now becomes great. So, I was going to give an example of the American flag, but I'll be honest, I feel the image of America right now is in flux. People are waiting to see whether the image will survive. But let's say prior to now, the idea of the American flag and the pride it connotes in the hearts of those who are under its banner is derived from all the achievements and accomplishments and the promise it holds and the potentials and the opportunities associated with the nation. So for us, I'm sorry, I remember, was it maybe a couple of years ago, we had the same issue where there was a, correct me if I'm wrong, there was some kind of exposition about an airline, a new Nigerian airline, and it was going to be doing all kinds of wonderful things. And there was so much, and I literally sat there and I said, are you serious? Are you kidding me right now? Like you're applauding the mere plan and proposal of an airline when other nations are revamping their airlines that have already been successful. Fast forward to where we are now. No one's talking about the airline that we unveiled the logo for. And that's the problem. Forget the logos. Forget unveiling statues. Forget unveiling pictures and colors. Like, give us social security numbers. Let's start with that. Let's have a database of information. Let's know which areas of our country need, more schools or more hospitals. Even before we build them, let's just have the data. So we don't even have the stats, the statistics to do the work we need to do. You're unveiling logos and pictures. I think that's just a sign of failure.
Okay, so during the president's anniversary speech, he touched on so many areas, one of which is fuel, and which, of course, the price has been pegged at 161 naira per liter. And late last month, which was September, the Nigeria Labour Congress and Trade Union Congress were to embark on a strike for fuel hike and electricity tariff. As an international lawyer, do you think it's the right thing to do considering the state of the nation, and will it ever go down?
I'll answer your last question first, which is I don't think it will ever go down.
Okay.
I might be wrong, but I feel like the forces that push it up, unfortunately, in Nigeria, are stronger than all the forces that are trying to push it down. And it goes
Because
back
it
to,
just kept increasing and increasing.
yes, because let me go back to what I said earlier. A lot of conversations about Nigeria should involve the word system. The system of the nation, and you can call it the structure of the nation. That's why those who say we should restructure, they have a point. Now we can argue on what that restructuring would look like or what that means, but there's a sense in which you need to reset this country. This country needs a hard reset. So the fuel price and the subsidy, one of the biggest issues I've had is, like, it's not so much the increase in the prices. It's that the authority, the entity, the government that is effecting these changes has no credibility with the people. That's the fun. That's at the bottom of this. You can have nations where prices of items, or for instance, gas prices in America, gas prices have gone up before when there's been turmoil in the international oil markets. So, but what is it that keeps the people from turning it into a reason to revolt? And it's because there's trust, right? There's an understanding that the price hike is based on something verifiable. We can see why. Not just that, if there's any revenue that accrues to the government from the hike, if any excess or additional revenue, if the economics work out to more money in the government coffers, the people, for some reason, because of history and resume, the resume of the government, they can trust that whatever comes from that will eventually find its way back into the economy, right? It will find its way back into our communities. That's the fundamental issue. So the price hike, in many cases, you can probably, I've heard a few economists, you can justify it. You can explain the need for the change in the price. The problem is you can never really, assure people that with that change, they can expect anything better in their communities. This is the issue. So, and I think it's right for the Labour Congress and every other group in Nigeria to rise up, because at the bottom of this question is fundamentally, accountability. We need you to do a better job, that is the government, to explain to us why this hike, to explain to us that if you did not hike this price, there was no other way that you could figure out, the Nigerian economy becoming progressive. Like, this was the only thing, you had to do this. So you have to explain to people it was inevitable. There was no way out. And unfortunately, the Nigerian government has not been able to do that.
Well, I guess the explanation was that Saudi Arabia's cannot have, we can't be lower than, we can't sell lower than Saudi Arabia. So,
And that's what I mean. That's what I mean. Like, so the idea becomes, where in that conversation, what is the leverage that Nigeria has as a fellow oil producing nation? Mm-hmm. So, because if your explanation say, well, there's a country to which all of us must bow on the issue of price, then at least explain to us if you even bother to negotiate. Did you even have a conversation with them? It's one thing for you to say, no, we fought hard and these are the concessions, because if you fight, you will at least get some concessions, because you're also you're all producing nation. You have a say. You should have a say. Nigeria's oil is not at the bottom. Nigeria's oil is premium. We are an actual power to be reckoned with on the oil markets. But it speaks to the incompetence. It speaks to the lack of care. There are so many deals and contracts that are coming out that successive Nigerian governments have signed up to, that are showing us that we've been sold out in many ways. I'm compared to many other great Nigerian lawyers and corporate attorneys and corporate minds in Nigeria, I am a baby. I always concede that. But I've listened to many of them. And in addition to what I know also, is like many of the things that we have signed up for are just complete giveaways, where we have given up so much of ourselves, and what we are getting in return, we cannot even measure.
Yeah.
So we don't even know if we got what we bargained for, but we are giving what we bargained to give. So the same thing applies. You're having the hike in the prices of these products. Then are you having any arrangements for palliatives for the people to help them deal with the change? No. So it's bigger than just the question of the price hike. It's the entire system. What else in the system has been adjusted to make room for the increased burden on the masses? I don't know if you understand. The burden can increase, but then you should be able to explain how that is offset by some assistance or some program somewhere. We don't have that. So it is necessary for our unions and congresses to come up and fight and demand some accountability.
That's if those group leaders are actually right with their followers too.
I mean, again, systematically, we are in trouble.
Yes.
Because the individuals at the helm of affairs, even of the resistance, are subject to corruption.
Exactly.
But let me push back on that. I'm at a point now where I'm like, fine, okay, the union leaders, labor movement leaders, they themselves have blood on their hands. I think I just said it this morning. Nigeria is in the condition of beggars cannot be choosers. We can't find any saintly leaders. We can't find any. Let me not say that generally, but it's difficult to find incorrupted and incorruptible leaders, right, in our nation. Many of us have to admit that even we ourselves cannot guarantee that if we have the opportunity and we're in position that we'll be completely clean. We're
So
praying
it
that we
takes
do
the
the
grace
right
of
thing.
God, right?
Yeah, we pray to it, but we all know that, hey, listen, the idea of making money, of finishing that house in the village, it's not just the politicians that like that. The average Nigerian wants that story too. So coming from there, I say this: I'm no longer looking for saints to lead our movements and lead our oppositions. I just want the opposition to happen. And I think that we can still get some results. We may not be optimal, but for instance, a price hike of this nature should not go unresponded to. And that's the pushback is necessary. If the leaders of the movements pushing back themselves have issues, we should just take that as par for the course. But let there be pushback. And while we are pushing back, we can still hold even those leaders accountable within the movement. But let the movement be happening, because we need to react. We need to respond. The people in power in Nigeria need to understand that they cannot just do things, not explain them to us without credibility, and expect us to continue to just take it. Because I think that would be already I think that's part of the problem we have. That's why we are where we are. The impunity, the lack of accountability. At some point, there's a pushback, and I'll take that pushback however it comes, because it's more important to have it than not.
Okay, talking about the accountability that you just mentioned, and transparency in addition, which in governance right now, how high is the risk of insecurity in the nation, or in a nation particularly, Nigeria?
That's a major. I start off by saying this. I defer to those of our families, friends, and colleagues, even people who don't know, who are living in Nigeria, living in the different states, living in Lagos, living in Ogun State, Benue, Borno. I defer to them for obviously details of what we've been hearing over here. But I do consider myself somebody who stays informed. And from what I see, one of the biggest dangers is that the insecurity has become, or is becoming, part of our normal, right? And I think that's the most dangerous place to be. At the point where the insecurity was something we all cried out about, that we shouted about, that we spoke about every day, that we agitated about, that we had movements about, that we rallied and we protested and we did all these things, and we affected some. At that point, those are good times, to borrow a phrase. What we have now is where it's taken for granted that we are not insecure. It's just normal. It's a thing that it's beginning to fade as top of mind, because you just take it as the reality. So the insecurity is so bad, and I think some of the most disappointing moments for me in the past couple of years is when even the president of the country, of Nigeria, has come out to, I don't know, to just show some surprise at the level of insecurity. There's been a few statements that President Buhari has made where he himself has expressed concern as to how he didn't even know how bad it was. I'm sorry I don't have the specifics, but I'm sure those of us watching or listening will know that there have been articles and releases and statements from the presidency that have kind of shown a sense of, oh, wow, I didn't know it was this bad.
So what is the way forward if you were to give an advice on what to do, considering your wealth of experience as an international lawyer? What would be your opinion, or what are the things you're going to reel out?
I'll be honest with you. My approach, my concept of Nigeria has always been one where, and it's my concept for everything else. I've been doing some FB Live broadcasts since the beginning of the pandemic, and one of the reasons I did it was because I was noticing a side pandemic, right? A complementary pandemic of ignorance following the COVID pandemic itself. And I realized that the ignorance was helping the COVID to spread. And when it comes to those issues, I always want to defer to experts on the different segments we are discussing. Because Nigeria's problem although it's a big problem, a total problem, but if you can break it down into segments, right? So it's a problem in our administrative setup, our executive setup, our politics, our governance. That's one segment. In the polity itself, culturally, we have an issue, a culture of corruption, a culture of nonchalance, a culture of selfishness, a culture of greed. I say culture not as something that the father passes to his son, but culture as in what has become so normal and practiced, so widespread, so understood. It's almost as if we had a meeting agreeing that we will all be greedy. So culture in that sense, not deliberate, but it's emerging as our culture, our behavioral culture. So you have that segment. You have another segment, infrastructural decay. That's a segment where you really need engineering minds. You need people who are into planning and development. With every sector, the educational sector, the medical sector. So what's my point? My approach to Nigeria would have been a segment by segment, approach, a simultaneous approach. One of the closest things I've seen to what my idea would be is the confab, right? The conference. Mm-hmm. It's the attempt to bring together the best minds on each issue. Let's have segments, top academic minds, top legal minds, top medical minds, our top law enforcement guys. They are brilliant law enforcement people in Nigeria, security professionals, private and public. Let's have them design programs within each sector that we can implement. Somebody needs to go and check our constitution. What is the constitution we have working for our current setup? Our federalism is not working, it's falling apart. So if you have somebody who's minded, a leader who is minded to set up that kind of commission, that kind of a committee, and to be serious about it with funding, to be serious about it with how we select the participants, not to select people based on, oh, that's my brother, I want him on the commission, to really have something. I believe the mind, the intellectual muscle that Nigeria needs to be better exists in Nigeria. And I still have hope because there are generations that are coming, I believe, who will be so tired of this rubbish that they will switch it up. We were hoping that it would be us. And we are still here. So it's not over. But we can still be part of it. We can let's write our names in the sand as the generation maybe that started the revolution, the economic revolution, the academic revolution. And Nigeria we can do this. But the will to do it has to start first. We need to agree first that it's worth doing. And I believe that there's a future for Nigeria where Nigeria is good and healthy and great. And I look forward to that future.
Thank you so much for being part of the show. Thank you so much. You've really done so well. And to you out there, thank you too for staying tuned. I hope you had fun while listening to our barista, Joshua Femi Kurodi. And I must say, we are all in this together. We have to come together to make it work. Until next time, I remain Olujoke. Bye for now.